very good evening to each and every one of you, and welcome to this week's episode of Your Manchester. Here I am in studio with Mr. Michael Adams and, of course, Mr. Mark Llewellyn. How are you, Mark?
It's been a bit of a mixed week, actually. Today, I've been to a funeral. Somebody who was a great friend, but also a bit of a legend. John Stevenson, who was head writer on Coronation Street for 30 years, got hundreds of episodes, lots of other series as well. And he invented some of the great comedy classics. He invented the character of Raquel Wollstonecraft, for one thing, and Sarah Lancashire was there today. And he also invented Hilda's Muriel. So a lovely, lovely man. And he had a very good farewell. Now, we've got a packed show for you tonight. Our Michael's been up to something. Let's find out what.
Yeah, that's right. I've got two really exciting interviews coming up with Neighbours legends, Alan Fletcher and Georgie Stone. Don't go anywhere, that's coming up a little bit later in the programme.
And this is how your show's looking.
Now, if you were like me, you'll have been absolutely devastated by the news that Aussie soap opera phenomenon Neighbours ended after 37 years on air last year. However, you may have also noticed that there's a huge marketing campaign around our region over the last week, celebrating the return of the brand new series to Amazon Freevee, with new episodes dropping each day at 7 a.m. And if you haven't tuned in yet, here's what you're missing.
Gosh, lots happened in the last 2 years.
All roads led back to Ramsey Street. I'm back! Some things never change.
I do really want to know more about you.
Sounds like a pretty close-knit neighbourhood. Hello, everyone.
Yoo-hoo. Maybe the ad should have said overly friendly neighbour.
You got our daughter involved in this?
You just got to give it a go.
Well, we found a date on the calendar and went for it.
I want you to find out exactly what she's been doing since she's been here.
Why does she not make her presence known?
Because she is a spy.
I'm worried about what I'll say. I'm worried that there'll be no coming back from it.
She's one amazing woman.
I have been keeping something from you.
It's about Harold. I can't make it stop.
Why didn't you tell me who you are?
You're not having second thoughts about today, are you?
Looks fantastic, doesn't it? And well, I'm really pleased now to be joined by Neighbours royalty, Alan Fletcher, who of course plays Dr. Carl Kennedy, and Georgie Stone, who plays Mackenzie Hargraves, the show's first trans character. Hello to you both.
Michael, it's brilliant. You made it work. Well done.
And Alan, welcome back to Your Manchester. Of course, friend of the programme. It just seems like yesterday that you were sat down with myself and Belinda in our glorious region.
Well, it's a great show. I love to be part of it.
We're now on episode 3. That, of course, was released this morning. And there's been so many twists and turns, including, of course, at the end of episode 1, we got to see a wedding between Toadie and Therese. Alan, when you found out this news, how did you feel? And how does Carl feel about it?
Well, as Alan, when we found out about it, we were actually doing a Zoom because I was in the UK and the rest of the cast were sitting in the boardroom in Victoria. And so it was 1 a.m. in the morning for me. And I when they told me the twist, I squealed. I had to apologise later for busting everyone's eardrums. In fact, I thought I'd misheard it. I actually had to ask for clarification. But the brilliant thing, Michael, is that because there's a 2-year gap between the old Neighbours and the new one, that means that so much has happened. We've got this beautiful arc of story at the beginning of the show to explain the past and so forth, to take a bit of a dive into why things have happened. So for what may seem like an amazingly extraordinary twist, everything makes sense. So I say to the fans, remember, Neighbours is a marathon, not a sprint. Stay with us because the journey is beautiful.
And Georgie, so lovely to chat with you as well. The last time we saw Mackenzie, she, of course, was grieving her husband, Hendrix, who had passed away in the months leading up to the finale. And as we know, there's been a bit of a time jump with these new episodes, and she's sort of feeling a little bit ready now to move on, and sparks are flying with her housemate, Haz. How is Mackenzie dealing with this 2 years on?
Yeah, I think what I imagine in those 2 years, it's been a real journey for her. I think she's really gone through it, the poor thing. But when we see her now, she's at this place where she thinks she's ready to move forward, and find someone new. And there is that connection with Haz, which was a really great friendship with just a few sparks as well, which was really, really fun to play. But I think what she discovers as it goes along is that grief isn't a linear process. It's very cyclical, and when she thinks that she might be ready to move forward and moving on, that there are moments where she's just brought right back into that grief. So that has been really cool to play. I think it's a really great story, and I'm really excited for the fans to see Mackenzie, not overcome with grief for once. That's really cool, and hopefully we get a bit more of happy Mackenzie.
And of course, we've seen as well that she's formed a little bit of a friendship with Sadie Rodwell, who, of course, she blamed for Hendrix's death.
Yeah. I was really shocked when I found out about that. I couldn't see how that friendship could work because, last time we saw them together, Sadie indirectly killed Hendrix.
You screamed at her in the street.
Yeah, I screamed at her in the street. Yes. She gave me a letter apologizing, and I ripped it up. So yeah, and then that was never really resolved. So I was confused by it, but that they explained to me, just imagine, within those 2 years worth of Neighbours stories, so much can change. And that really helped me get my head around it. And then in filming those scenes with Emerald, it worked really well. That friendship worked really well. And we've been able to create something really fun and playful, along with Lucinda as well, who plays Holly. And the three of us, we've really hit it off on screen and off screen.
And Alan, I've got to bring this up. Last time you chatted with myself and Belinda, which seems like an eternity ago, so much has happened since then. We asked you a question regarding the photograph of you in number 28 of you when you were younger with that beautiful tash.
Yes.
I have noticed it is back on set though, isn't it?
The staging department are too clever for me, because I actually did grab it, Michael, at the end of Neighbours. I popped it under my jacket, took it home. It's back in my house. And when the Neighbours started up again, so I suppose you want my picture back. And they said, oh, no, don't worry, we've got a copy.
And Georgie, lastly, I've just got to say, of course, this is your first promotional trip to the UK, which, of course, are the biggest consumers of Neighbours. How's it been for you to be in London, meeting all of these journalists and, of course, seeing the fan reaction?
Oh, it's been so much fun. It's been so cool. And to do this with Alan and some of the other cast members, and just to be in London in the days leading up to the Neighbours release, it's so cool. There's this energy that's really electric and awesome. So it's just been a blast. It's been so cool. I feel so lucky. I feel lucky that they asked me as well. I was really surprised.
Automatic choice.
Well, it wouldn't have been the same without you both. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Fabulous to see you, Michael.
Guys.
Michael.
And don't forget, new episodes of Neighbours drop at 7 a.m. daily on Amazon Freevee. You don't want to miss it. And Mark, you've been out and about this week again, haven't you?
I have. I've been walking along Peter Street in the city centre, where there are lots of good neighbours. So we start this week's city centre walk here in St Peter's Square. And behind me, of course, the Central Library, built in the 1930s, a steel structure, and then coated in stone, and sort of based on the Parthenon in Rome. This whole square was originally designed to become like a city square with civic buildings. It wasn't quite finished in that way. Had the old extension there onto the town hall, war memorial, and across the road, something that's much older. In fact, 120 years old this year, and that's the Midland Hotel. So the Midland Hotel was built in 1903 as a railway hotel. So right behind us is what is now Manchester Central, the Exhibition and Conference Centre. But that was originally a railway station. This was built to capitalise on that. Actually, people would have come in from what is now the back of the hotel. Here was actually the carriage entrance, and that's why there are two big arches, because vehicles would have come in and round. A lot of famous people have stayed here over the years and continue to do so. And perhaps the two most famous are Mr. Rolls and Mr. Royce, who met here and decided to make motor cars together. And you should also notice on the front of the building, the wyvern, which is a mythical creature from the southwest of England. And that was the symbol of the railway company. So on this corner, which is Mount Street and Peter Street, we have what used to be the headquarters of the YMCA, St George's House. In fact, a lovely statue up there of St George right over the entrance. They sold it, and with the proceeds, they built their new hotel down at Castlefield, the Y. And behind us, what used to be Television House, the very first headquarters of Granada Television when they opened in Manchester. And next to it, we would have found, now demolished, the Gaiety Theatre, which was run by Miss Horniman, who made her fortune from the family Horniman's Tea Company. And she set up one of the first repertory companies that then became the Library Theatre Company and was based in the Central Library just on the opposite corner. Next to St George's House is Museum Street, and this is where the very first Natural History Museum in Manchester stood. There are all kind of weird exhibitions here, and eventually the collection was taken down and is now the Manchester Museum collection. And on the corner, the Theatre Royal from the 1840s, wonderful statue of a very smug looking Shakespeare on the front of it. And this is where all the greats of the day, Macready and people like that, actually appeared. It's also where the first performance in Britain of Puccini's opera La Bohème was staged, with Puccini in the audience. The biggest building here on Peter Street is the Free Trade Hall. And there used to be two halls that stood on the site before this one. It's now a hotel, but it was used for all kinds of events, including being the home of the Halle Orchestra for many years. People like Winston Churchill, Bob Dylan, the Sex Pistols all appeared here over the years. And it has two claims to getting the vote in Britain. The first was that just around the corner is where the Peterloo massacre took place. There's a memorial there now. That led to working men getting the vote. But also when Winston Churchill was Home Secretary, he was speaking here when the suffragettes burst in and disrupted the event. And that led to the creation, really, or the claim to fame of the suffragettes and women getting the vote eventually. As I say, today it's a hotel. It's also used for filming now and again. Perhaps one of the most notable ones is in The Crown. When Princess Diana is shown going to New York for an AIDS benefit event, she actually arrives here and goes inside the Free Trade Hall. During the Victorian and Edwardian era, Manchester was known as Cottonopolis because of the amount of raw cotton that was coming in and being turned into goods. Of course, to get those goods all around the world, you had to have transportation hubs. And so here is the Great Northern Warehouse, built for the Great Northern Railway Company. Trains would come in at an upper level and other vehicles could come in at ground floor and goods could be transported from train to road. And there was a lot of noise here, as you can imagine. But this is on the edge of the main shopping street, Deansgate. Now this building was actually 8 bricks thick and it was used for overnight storage. It was a bonded warehouse. There used to be a bonded warehouse on the set of Coronation Street, you might remember. And goods of value would be protected by guards. So there was a lot of activity night and day. To protect the genteel shoppers on Deansgate from that, a row of shops was constructed, very nice indeed, and they would protect the shoppers from the noise and the dust behind here. And that row is now the longest surviving Victorian row of shops in the world. And that is where we end our walk. Well, Factory International are providing not only fantastic entertainment, but also some wonderful training as well. Our Belinda has more.
All right then. And joining us now is Kieran. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing really well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing very good. Now, tell me, you are at this wonderful brand new spanking venue. It's all going very well, and it's quite the sensation of a venue, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming, but finally Manchester has the type of space which can rival somewhere in London, which is long overdue. it's the type of space which is going to bring art and other things that maybe wouldn't have had a space in Manchester otherwise. But where I'm really excited about, which I'll be talking with yourself about today, is the community engagement aspects through education and skills and training. So I work for Factory Academy, which is about helping people from Greater Manchester above the age of 19, currently unemployed or earning under the threshold, to access creative roles, which I think is going to be a lot easier now we actually have a space to create jobs and create art.
Yeah, well, you talk about creating jobs. I mean, it must feel good for you knowing that there is now something to be able to be offered out into, well, the community and into prospective creatives.
Yeah, 100%, because I think that sometimes people don't know the wealth of opportunities in the creative industries because they don't have a connection to it. And I think the really interesting thing we'll be doing is we've got our learning program, Creative Learning, which is targeting primary school all the way through high school. So hopefully it's a kind of place where you get taken, as you were when you were younger, to the Museum of Science and Industry on your school trip, where it plants a seed there. And then there's enough kind of things to water it by. You go back to this show, you get invited to that, you do that workshop, you meet this person. And hopefully it comes to the point where you're making that decision after the college. Do I want to go to uni or do I want to go straight into work? And hopefully because of Factory Academy and all the work we're doing in Factory International, there is an option for someone to go straight in the path they want to go to, which is potentially sound, tech, but also the things behind the scenes like producing, artist liaison and everything else, which I'm sure you know about, that actually makes a show come to life.
Yeah, so what is the opportunities that you hope will be available then?
So there's loads of opportunities, and you've got to think depending on which audience is accessing them. For people over 19 looking to go straight into work, you have our courses, which are completely free of charge, and they'll have specific focuses. So we've got ones that are coming up, which are going to be on broadcasting films. So thinking about which skills you need to go into that industry. Or if you've got a particular project in your mind and you want to do something creative yourself, we also do things really professional like project management, but through a creative lens. So you learn all that jargon, but can apply it to your projects to then actually take what you need and go out into the world and hopefully access the funding via your own means. So if you're thinking about adult learners, there's job opportunities, but I think if you think about younger learners, there's also things just to get your hands dirty, get involved with painting, doing this, doing that, by going to spaces like Yayokosama, which we had over the summer, but then actually having a provision outside of the exhibition where you get to try out loads of different things. So there's all those opportunities. On top of all of that, obviously you have the main reason for it to exist, which is amazing shows, amazing performances, which with initiatives like cheaper ticketing, with our initiatives, hopefully more people can access than ever before, because as we all know, sometimes going to what was the MEN Arena, the AO Arena, is too expensive. And I think that's an absolute travesty when you have all this amazing art, but it's inaccessible. So there is a commitment to that. And the initiatives I've talked about hopefully will make things more accessible.
So how do people get involved in this? Is it open just to a certain amount of people, or is it open to everybody?
So, yeah, again, if we're thinking about the creative learning aspect, there are specific schools that they're working with, but that will grow and grow and grow, and hopefully as many schools as possible can access it. If you're thinking about Factory Academy specifically, the only eligibility is you're based in Greater Manchester, so you have a Greater Manchester postcode, and you're above the age of 19 and earning under £20,000. We do prioritise places on our course for people from underrepresented backgrounds, and that could be along a load of different lines, whether it's socioeconomic background, ethnicity, gender, etc. But they are still open to people who maybe aren't underrepresented but still need an opportunity. We'll prioritise our places, but what we do, which I think is different to other charities, is we don't have a singular focus. We're looking to try and get as many people from as many different backgrounds in Manchester into the creative industry. So they're as accessible as possible, and they're targeted for the people who need them most.
And why is this so important to people within Greater Manchester?
Because I think it's been a closed door till now. I think it's been one of those things where you don't actually know how to get involved. And I think before it's been like your next door neighbour just so happens to work on Antiques Roadshow or something like that, and then you get your foot in the door at work experience. You know what I mean? So I think it's because Manchester is a creative space, and we all kind of love that about it, whether you're early exposure of music or just being in areas like Northern Quarter where you see like the early sort of signs of creativity of Affleck's Palace and all the mosaics and everything that really captures your imagination. So I think as a place, it is very there for creative people, but I don't think it's been very clear how to get involved. And I think this way we're laying it on the plate. And it's not all just about Factory International. We'll connect our students with other organisations, because there's an amazing array of places in Manchester, like Royal Exchange Theatre, Contact, absolutely amazing space, Home, where you can go watch movies and theatre, thinking about the Lowry. And we do connect with other organisations to make the next generation aware about these spaces, because like anybody, you can quickly become irrelevant unless you engage with the next generation. So it's not just about us, it's about the whole offering of Manchester and finding a way to make it as easy as possible for a person who's interested to access it, whether it is we come to your schools or in your job centre, or you've seen an advert or you've seen the show, just trying to make it a place where you can naturally arrive at, rather than the off chance that you know somebody.
And finally, just before we let you go, when is this open to people, and how do people dip their toe into being part of this with you?
So Factory Academy specifically is open right now, and we've got applications for 2 courses coming up. Applications are open for broadcast and film, which is obviously about thinking about cinema, TV, radio. And then we've also got managing creative projects, which is about the project management bit, which I told you about. These are all open right now. In terms of the space opening up, there's going to be a massive event called Free Your Mind, which is Danny Boyle and Boy Blue, who are a dance group from London, do amazing stuff. And they've reimagined the Matrix, but using the whole of the space and all the amazing things like the warehouse, like the theatre, and bringing it to life. There are previews starting on 13th of October, but the actual event will be kicking off for the general public from 18th of October. And if you are someone who maybe would like to go, but maybe just don't have enough money to put in towards the full price ticket, there are £10 tickets available. And for an example of how we can make it accessible, we've recently just completed a course which was focused on stage management. So 20 people from Manchester joined, completed 2 weeks of training with us, and 2 of them have just got placements with the stage management company putting it together. So they'll actually spend the next 6 weeks behind the scenes making the performance come to light. But for the people who didn't access the final opportunity, they've all been invited to the event for free. We'll host them, wine them, dine them, all that sort of stuff, and make them feel really part of the opening of an amazing building, because they've dedicated their time to Factory Academy, and we want to give back.
Thank you very much, Karen. Absolutely fantastic. It sounds amazing, doesn't it, Mark? It really does. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for being part of our show today. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And that's the end of this week's show, everybody. Make sure you check out next week's wonderful show of Your Manchester. Till then, though, thanks to each and every one of you for watching
Your Manchester.
Manchester.